All right, guys. Well, welcome back to another virtual show with the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. Today, we have a couple topics to hit, and we have some people to share their ideas on these topics, their expertise on them, their insights on what's going on in the particular market. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce myself before we jump into things. My name is Casey Santana. I am the founder of Chifa Entertainment. Today we also have Christian Blake. He's with sales and operations at Genetica. You guys can do a little wave. And I hope I am not butchering your last name. We have Chris Ostrowski with CTO at Dechi. Chris Eggers, CEO and founder of Cannabis Security Solutions. And our man here, also with the Cannabis Chamber, Chris Bordreau, founder of Ripe Metrics. And you can correct me, Chris, when you come back. But welcome, fellas, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
You guys want to do just light intros as to where you guys are stationed wise, and we'll wait for Chris to join us before we start jumping into the hot topics.
Do we address the elephant in the room that there is a room full of Chris's in some capacity, or is that
as a host? I was lovely. Can we do just last names as we do in sports?
Are we going to find out that the C in KC also stands for Chris?
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, good point. It doesn't, but yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that. So that's why we'll keep it to the 2 digits or 2 letters.
If it's okay, I can kind of kick us off just really quickly. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So my name is Christian Blake. I work on the sales and sales enablement side of things here at Genetica. We are an all-encompassing complete management tool and solution with a focus on customer engagement and data enrichment for the cannabis retail environment. So the company is based in KC, actually, Kansas City, or as most of you probably know us, world champion football town, I think. Did that get any cheap laughs? No? All right. Well, there's always one, Chris. So happy to be here. Really, really happy to talk about this topic. This is something that's really near and dear to our heart, and something that is on everyone's minds.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, he's back. Chris, you're back. I was just making sure I didn't butcher your last name. You want to do a light intro?
Yeah, sure. And it wouldn't be a virtual event if we didn't have some technical issues, right? And so I'm Chris Boudreau. I'm proud to be chair of the board of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with some really fantastic people today with some really exciting stuff. We're in an interesting place in the world where technology, I think, is really truly going to start shaping or reshaping everything that we do. It's stuff that's been talked about. We've all seen movies about it. I'm excited to have an AI company that offers customer service and some other things in a company called Ripe Metrics. But we'll get into that in a minute. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be here with the panel. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I've had licenses in 4 states, taken a company public, have a couple of companies still in the cannabis industry, and excited about what the future holds for our industry as we see things really starting to grow nationally in drinks and some other things as the industry expands and evolves in interesting ways.
Yeah, absolutely. For a content creator, this is definitely a sexy topic. So I'm super excited to dive into this. Mr. Eggers, go ahead.
Thanks for having me. My name is Chris Eggers. I'm the founder of CC Security Solutions and TLBC Inc. We've been in the industry 3 years. We are a full service security provider, and we are unapologetic about our disruption to the status quo of cannabis security. We do 2 things incredibly well. We increase security coverage while saving clients money. 2 examples we're very proud of. One client is directionally saving about $100,000 a year on their security spend, and they are more compliant and safer than they've ever been. And another client is saving about double that. They're saving about $200,000 a year on security guard spend because we're able to use and inject technology with the help of AI at these sites to increase situational awareness and reduce liability. And I'm super stoked to be here and get into some of the details as well. So we've got a great bunch of panelists. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's exciting. I mean, there's some hot cities that probably need that more than others right now, especially. So that's probably a great avenue to start taking a look at. I think we lost another person. Bear with us, guys. We are slowly getting everybody on. We lost another Chris with Dutchy, so I imagine he will be popping back soon.
He's at an event right now. So Chris, for the audience, Chris Ostrowski is the Chief Technology Officer, of basically the head of technology for Dutchy, which is a technology company. So really excited to have him on the panel today. He's a wealth of knowledge about what's happening from one of the biggest technology companies in the industry.
All right. Well, since he's a busy man doing like multitasking things, you want to just like kind of dive into maybe covering. Let's start with maybe just getting an idea of AI, if that's okay with you. Like maybe you can dive into of like what it is and what to expect out of it. I know a lot of us content creators are excited about it, but there's also a lot of fear about using it and making sure that we still stay authentic in whatever we're creating, even for marketers. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your experience with it maybe and how to best use it.
Yeah, and to your point, Casey, I think everybody's a little bit familiar with that. You can create content with it. I think that's it's helping content creators like you. And there's all these exciting things. But one of the big questions a lot of companies have, or a lot of people have, is okay, well, I'm not a content creator. How does it help me in business, or what can I do with it? What are other things that we can do to create value or save money with AI? We're hearing all kinds of things. Chris Eggers and I were actually sharing some videos earlier this morning of some of the robotics that are developing. For the audience, people might find it interesting to hear that there's some companies that are, let me say it this way, there's an expectation that we're going to see the first humanoid in-home robots either later this year or early next year. And we've all seen that movie or, pick your movie. There's like 4 or 5, they don't end well. So that's an interesting statement, right? Like it doesn't end well for humanity. Is that, how are those going to be received? And so we're at this really interesting inflection point. But, whether it's humanoid robots, whether it's robot dogs, whether it's flying drones, whether it's AI technology that helps us figure out what we're doing, helps us write, helps us understand how do we make better personalized experiences for people? How do we serve customer service needs? How do we manage inventory? There's so many ways that AI could affect us, and we're gonna talk through some of that today. And so I'll go ahead and start. And I don't know, Casey, I don't know if you had anything you want to add to that, because I know you're seeing a lot of exciting stuff too.
No, you hit on every point. I love that you point out the ways that we can use it to save money and just be more efficient in how we're creating content. So no, that was all great. And then when you said about we're at the time of having the robots in our house, however way that may look, is like the Jetsons, like just we're at that point right now. And so I think the best thing is to be open-minded about it and then decide later if you want to use it or not. I think that's the best way to approach it as far as it being a tool and an app for people. But let's dive into it.
I think well said. So, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a company called Right Metrics, and so I've had some cannabis retail stores, some licensed stores, actually in multiple states. I was one of the first cannabis distribution operators in the industry, and I've actually had a couple distribution companies, and I've had my own operations in every vertical of the cannabis industry. And so I've got kind of a unique perspective. And over time, I was like, wow, I'm using, back in the day, there was a company called Baker, for those that have been around in the industry for a while, that sent text messages. I was using Baker, and then I was using a company for feedback. And then I was using a company for email marketing, like MailChimp. And then I was using a CRM. And then I was looking at business intelligence tools. And then there was like 1 or 2 other bolt-ons, and we had this plethora of services, and it was a lot to manage for my managers. We used a system called Avocado for helping with customer service, which was a little bit like Zendesk. And there was all these technologies, and the problem was none of them really integrated. And we would have things happen. And so for those of you in the industry might be able to resonate with this. I'd have like somebody complain about a product or an employee or something that they didn't have a good experience with. And that might come in the form of feedback. And so we'd get that through feedback. And then a manager might email or call. And whether it was a call first or an email first, it would end up leading to the other, whether it was an email first and then led to a call, or a call that led to an email, and then maybe some text messaging. And usually it happens over different shifts over time. So then you have multiple managers and maybe a couple staff involved. And so now you have 2 to 3 people involved in a conversation over several channels, and tracking that conversation so that you can have notes of like, okay, well, what did we end up deciding that we're going to do to help this customer? Are we going to refund? Is it something bigger where they're threatening some complaint, or maybe even worse, like potential liability? And how are we addressing this? And having all of that in one place was pretty much impossible. And I was like, okay, we have all this friction. We're losing all this time in trying to manage all these tools. We don't have a way to integrate them. There needs to be something for that. And we can't afford Salesforce, which is a very expensive implementation. And so I said, let me take this experience after I sold some businesses, and let's start a business that takes all these tools, puts them together, and then let's make it better by wrapping it in AI. Let's take AI that says, okay, let's help you with your customer service. Let's help you with your marketing. Let's help you with your business intelligence. And so let me just show you really quick, but that's what we've built. And there's tools out there now like ours. There's not very many, but there are companies coming that say, hey, you can get chat features. And I would warn you, if you're looking at using chat, be very careful, because a lot of the chat companies aren't very fleshed out. And the risk is they just kind of put a skin or a face on ChatGPT without a lot of technology to help protect you. And you might get, and thank you. But you might get some concerns where it might not give the answers that you want it to give, and it could lead to liability. And there's already companies having liability issues. So you want to make sure that when you look at maybe chat companies, that you're careful. Our company, and there's going to be more in the future, offers a full suite. So across email, across chat, across text messaging, across phone, but a full customer service suite. And technologies like that can help save you a lot of money, but also deliver a more consistent response. Also deliver a response 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So to show you really quick, we have, can everybody see this? Is this coming through?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we have a range of business intelligence tools that provide a lot of insight. But we have a customer service center where things will come into your inbox from chat, from phone, from text message, from email. You can manage it here. You can send notes. You can pick a person. You can send text messages. You can send social media messages, email. You can make phone calls. You can even calendar appointments and say, I want to schedule things. And then you can look at feedback that's come in. You can look at purchases that were made. You can look at emails that were sent. You can look at text messages, phone calls that the AI answered, and a lot of this can be automated through AI. There's also tools to help improve, and these tools are growing. I think we've got some of the better tools, but there's tools that you can use to do better email content creation. So there's tools out there now that are a little bit legacy. They don't offer a lot of power. There's other tools where you can say, hey, you know what? I want to create some AI images. And so I created this email for presentation. The logo is a peach with some chocolate on it. And so, what we did is we had the AI create an image. And it's just as simple as clicking and telling it what you want it to make. But created a couple. You can have AI, for those of you that aren't familiar with DALL-E or some of the power of some of these tools, you can have AI create, like I had to create this image of a chocolate store. So this is actually an image the AI created from scratch, where I told it, make a great selection of chocolates, make a beautiful set counter, a nice display case behind it. You can have it write content for you. I even had it create an image of a cheeseburger. So this is an AI generated image of a cheeseburger, a bacon cheeseburger with onion rings, because I was hungry at the time I was working on this and it sounded good. But there's so much that you can do. And I created this whole email with all these images from scratch, no copyright issues, the content, the headlines, type in something simple, click see the magic, and it spits out options for you. I did all of this in about 5 minutes. And it'll generate some options that you can pick. And so there's some really fantastic tools from our company, from other companies, things that are coming. This is what we offer. We also offer AI and business intelligence, really quick, just to kind of show the last thing, where the AI will take a look at your business, how it's performing. We'll say, hey, these KPIs, these performance measures are things that you should check out, give you an explanation of those things, and then do a summary up at the top of like how your business is performing financially. It'll also take a look at interactions that you're having with your customers and say, hey, you know what? People are saying these things. Here's the top 5 customer trends. And these are the things that are trending. Some of it's positive, some of it's negative. They call this sentiment analysis, where the AI takes a look at what people's emotions are behind it, how they feel about those things, chart it so you can see what it is, and then give you a summary at the top. But there's really fantastic tools that you can use to save yourself time and not have to use some of these legacy tools for understanding how your business is performing, for helping you generate better marketing, and for helping you with customer service. And that's stuff that we're doing at Right Metrics. We've got some other really interesting things in ways that you can save money in cannabis. And so I'm going to let Chris Eggers talk a little bit about what he's doing with security and how he can create value for you.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it. So, you did a really good job of talking about, how you've integrated all of these various pieces that you need to run a business into one place. And that was a big pain point. We're doing that today with security. So typically, generally folks that are not our clients are dealing with somebody writing their application, somebody designing their space, somebody else installing it, somebody else sourcing the equipment, somebody else pulling the wire, somebody else is monitoring the alarm. And if you have any other add-ons, let's say real proactive video monitoring, somebody else is doing that. And then let's say you're really focused on being compliant with the fine print of your insurance policy, you're going to recognize that there's likely specific door hardware and locking hardware that you need throughout your facility, regardless of license type. And if you're a retail facility, you also now need a guard company. So however many vendors that is, that's however many contracts with so much fine print. How and why we're disruptive is we've evolved to a place where we are one-stop shop. You can think of us as the general contractor of cannabis security. Our clients don't deal with multiple vendors. So when something doesn't work, and I promise you, something at some point won't work, a guard will come in late, a camera will go down, an issue, there might be stuff within our control, there might be power outages at the building outside of our control. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we cannot control that affects our things ticking or not ticking. But we have no one, we purposely put ourselves in a corner. We have no one to point the finger at, where everyone else in the industry is, as far as we can tell, and we know this because they call us and they complain and we understand what the status quo is. They're engaged with all these different vendors. And then you have the stereotypical multi-vendor blame game. Somebody wants to blame somebody else for the thing not working. And nobody is putting the end user, the operator, the license holder, the person touching the plant first. And that's very much lacking in the industry. And that's how and why we've grown to the degree that we have. And in 3 years, we're happy to say that, starting this company by myself, we now provide jobs to over 40 people. And we did that in less than 3 years. We've done that with no sales and no marketing. And so what that tells you is that the results are real and that the industry needs a change. And how are we able to provide that change? We're able to provide that change because we lean heavily into technology and the wave that's coming, which is AI. And we're doing that in several ways. Like I mentioned earlier, we're increasing situational awareness while decreasing liability. We're also able to live share information with law enforcement that historically, and we don't make any claims or any guarantees, but real data for you is client facilities in East Oakland. In our experience, when we need cops there, they've responded in under 15 minutes. That is very real. And as a former Oakland police officer responding to burglary calls several days later, it's just really atrocious because what we have in the country is this depleted police resources. In addition to that, we have this trend that people don't like to talk about in the guard space, especially guard companies. We love to talk about it because we're not just a guard company, but most people who offer guard services are. And so they have to overinflate who they're hiring. We're hiring ex-cops and ex-military, and just no, you're not. They're just not. And guards, we know now today, don't deter crime. The goal of a guard is to get the cops there as quickly as possible. And we can do that with technology, with the help of AI, quicker, more cost effectively, and more consistently, period. And the results of that, again, is really substantial cost savings. So we're able to, in some cases, eliminate a guard completely while still reducing police response time. And Chris, I'm going out on a limb because I didn't ask your permission for this, but we are using Right Metrics right now in very early stages in the AI capabilities within Right Metrics in a different way, not in a marketing way, but internally for our guards to have somebody to chat with, to text with, to type in questions to, because we've been able to dump a lot of our SOPs into this system. And so our guards, let's say, who have zero experience, or let's say minimal experience at a new site, fixing a camera or resetting Wi-Fi because they got a new Wi-Fi provider, and Boudreaux knows that this is very real. We have folks that now can text a number and get walked through the process of how to do that. And so the result of that is less overhead for ourselves, and we pass that savings on to our clients. And so there's different ways, not only using technology to increase, security coverage, which in the putting my strict security hat on right now, coming off of a very big show in Vegas called ISC West. AI is everywhere. It's a term everyone's using. They love to use it. But what does it really mean, and how is it adding value? For the end user, for the people that are consuming this content right now that want to make their life easier, they want to save money, right? They don't want to have to get in the weeds of what we do and how we do it, because it's just not your concern. Our experience is that clients want just the solution so that they can go back to doing what they're doing. If they're an indoor cultivator, they want to worry about the plant. They want to worry about cultivation. They don't want to have to worry about, getting the cops there when the bad guys come, quickly. That is our responsibility. That is what keeps us up at night. And AI is incredible in doing so. And now we're injecting that technology into drones. And if it's okay, I'll screen share a little bit on some of the things that we're doing today that I think are pretty cool. And here's a quick video for you. So here's this drone right here is a tethered drone. So it doesn't need to comply with certain FAA rules. It's incredible what it could do. The height is not at its max height, and the zoom capabilities are crazy, right? And so what we can do with AI, we're not exactly all the way sure yet, right? But soon what we're going to be able to do is show what a safe site looks like versus a non-safe site. And we're going to be able to do that when we collect enough data with our drone patrols. And I'll just go ahead and share one more just to kind of show you what we're talking about here. So think of like the Roomba vacuum, right? How it goes around your house and it's vacuuming, but what it's also doing is understanding the layout of the house, and it's getting smarter. And we're able to do that with autonomous drone patrols. I'm going to share one more video for you, because this is a very real concern for a lot of people who work in this area. But this is a site in East Oakland. And this particular alley tends to have some bad actors, to put it nicely, that like to hang out and do surveillance. And so this is a drone patrol. If you guys can see my screen, okay. 100% autonomous. And so we've pre-programmed this flight to look at various waypoints, and then we can share this data with law enforcement. So for example, if this vehicle right here was a bad guy car, we can live stream this to any patrol car and OPD, show the license plate, et cetera, et cetera. But beyond that, what we can do, again, and this is very important, and we don't know the answer. I'm not claiming that we know the answer yet, but with AI, we're going to be able to show what a safe site looks like versus a site that's not safe or is soon to be not safe. And so it's about leveraging technology in a way that, addresses real concerns for people. But at the end of the day, our goal is not to express how deep in the weeds we're getting with this stuff, rather than allow our clients to get back to doing what they want to do, right? If you're a retailer, you want to sell your cannabis. If you're a neural cultivator, you want to grow your cannabis. And we want you to focus on that. But the landscape has changed in the industry, and the threats are incredibly real. We know it. It's getting talked about a little bit more. And the one big threat that we're able to really address with the use of technology that I've mentioned twice now is lowering and reducing liability for stakeholders. And that is a threat in the industry that is not talked about, that is very real. People are getting sued for negligent security. People are getting sued for premise liability. People are getting sued when bad things happen that are outside of their control. We live in a litigious society. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's how it is. And it's a real threat that people need to be aware of. So anytime we can reduce liability, save cost, and provide a solution for people that allows them to get back to their day job, that's a huge win. And that's what we're doing today. And to be very clear, we are incredibly unapologetic about our approach.
That's great, Chris. Really quick, I just wanted to add, I think security is such an interesting thing in the world that we're in, right? Security 20 years ago wasn't what security needs are now. And I think of security almost like cardboard boxes. It's something that you don't really pay attention to, but it's everywhere and everything. Yeah, everything comes in cardboard boxes, right? Everything has security. Everybody has security. There's too much risk. There's too much liability. There's too much theft. And I think not only do you have really compelling savings, I think you guys being really the first, not just in cannabis, but really one of the first in the US to offer these drone services where you can really decrease costs for groups it's very compelling. And it's interesting to see that you're saving some of these cannabis companies huge amounts.
Savings is very real, and we're really just scratching the surface on it right now. Today, right now, I'm in Salt Lake City. We're with one of our partners who's pioneering the use of mobile security units in a very different way. You've seen them in parking lots of Home Depot and Lowe's and things like that. This approach, if I were to peel back this window, is much different than the other approaches that's happening. But to find like-minded people, and there's obviously the folks on this panel are like-minded people to look at technology and how can we utilize it differently. We're chasing a different carrot, but that's okay. To quote my favorite rapper to ever live, Nipsey Hussle, if you stay in your lane, there's no traffic in your own lane, right? So that's where we are. We're in our own lane. Right now, we recognize that we're alone. We recognize that we're chasing a different carrot, and we recognize the disruptive nature. But, 2 data points we love to share that we're incredibly proud of. 100% of our clients have asked us to expand our scope at one point, and 100% of our clients are organic. 2 things that we're really, really bad at, and I'm particularly really bad at. I'm really horrible at sales. I'm really horrible at marketing. We don't have them. And so, you don't achieve the growth that we've had with the employee count that we have unless our solutions work. And again, it's unfortunate what's happening, but it's important to understand the landscape has changed even in 3-5 years with respect to security, particularly in the cannabis industry. And in parallel to that, across every city in the country, you have a depleted police resource. You have law enforcement that has their own biases, against the plant. They teach in law enforcement. I come from Oakland PD and San Francisco PD. I've attended dozens of trainings, and they teach it's the devil's lettuce. That is the culture of law enforcement. And, people can say otherwise if they want to, but go talk to operators in Oakland, go talk to operators in LA, go talk to operators in Denver, Portland, Seattle, Long Beach, any major city. And they're going to tell you, what's really going on. And it's really important to at least understand, what sandbox are we playing in and what are the rules of this game in order for us to succeed. And we believe that not only is technology here, but it's changing the landscape of security. And we're incredibly proud to say that the 40 employees that we have, or it might be more today, we're pioneering that shift in technology. It's not going to put them. My employees will not be out of a job. My employees are at the front end of the wave that's coming. And they are the first, we have, to my knowledge, the first armed guards that are drone Part 107 pilots operating today. And today, as we speak, we are doing drone patrols in East Oakland, less than a mile from Oakland International Airport, with 100% compliance from the FAA.
Amazing.
I'll mute myself before you guys do it.
I know Casey and I enjoy a little devil's lettuce.
A little bit, just a little bit. Being understatement for me. But Mr. Blake, I think this would be a great time for you to kind of transition into that. I know you, genetic is a little bit different from security, but I know it ties all into how you guys are doing sales and operations. So let's dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to follow you up, Chris. Man, I mean, what's right? I mean, let me see if I can find a good segue. We provide peace of mind, which I think creates a blanket of security for operators in a different way. I don't know if that works, but right. Yeah. So let's see. Genetica, it was born out of frustrations felt by the founders being operators at the retail level, cultivation. It's really tough to make sense of this myriad of data that's coming from this disparate amount of systems, and it's one of the reasons why I love. I would normally say CB on this call, but I'll say Crispy, the other Crispy, I think that there's so much appetite across the retail environment here, and honestly, across the globe, to just make sense of this chaotic amount of data, what to do with it, when to do what and how and who does it go to. I think that's really what I think. I'm a little biased towards our team, so I apologize ahead of time, but I think our team does a really badass job of just centralizing and simplifying, and that's really kind of been our ethos. We bet a long time ago on this idea that retailers wouldn't be moving away from multiple systems to use one. They love optionality, they love the latest and greatest, and we all know with the rise of generative AI and ChatGPT and everything, I think I'm pretty sure that it is extraordinarily expensive to buy a GPT nowadays, where it wasn't a few years ago. We wanted to simplify a lot of that. So what we built, and I'm a bit of a nerd, so I apologize, and then I also don't for those other nerds in the crowd. We built what can commonly be referred to as an expert system. So the way that I try to explain it to my kids, friends' parents at carpool pickup is it's like if Palantir Technologies and Shopify got together and said, hey, we could make something great. Off of that, what we've been able to do is we've really been able to create this clean, clear way for retail operators to operate the entirety of these systems. So that's their seed to sale, their inventory management, security solutions, HRIS, and everything in between from one central place. I've heard a lot of retailers talk about it similarly to an ERP platform or an MRP platform. We're a little bit different. And I think the best way to categorize it is our Flora operating system acts as an expert train conductor in every car, right? Your marketing, your sales. And what we're really using is we're using the data that already exists within their ecosystem. We're pairing that with what has taken us 2 years quietly building with more. I didn't know what a server telemetry programmer or a data analytics and applied scientist was, but now I feel like I can be dynamic when it comes to trivial pursuit on the data science side. So especially for the wedge, we take a whole bunch of systems and we just make sense of them, put them in one clean, clear dashboard. On the other side of that, I think what we stumbled on, and this was unintentionally positive consequences of trying to really change the way that operators are thinking about using data, is we built a bi-directional piece to the system. And this took so much time, right? How do you, if Chris O was on the call, I'd throw a little lovely, jab his way, but Dutchy's not going to allow for most third-party systems to come in and manage elements of their system, right? In the same way that Trees or Cover, any of these other beautifully massive systems would. We've done a really good job of partnering with our other tech and ancillary service providers to allow for us to be able to work within the confines of their systems, to where when I, as an operator, come in to my Flora OS in the morning, I'm being told exactly what I need to know, when I need to know it, why I need to know it. And then the power and the intuitiveness for Flora to be able to say, would you like me to go and take care of this? And so as an example, and I'm throwing out a lot of crazy words, we have one client, it was weather. I think I told all of you when we were talking about this the last time, it basically the OS said to him, Rob, good news. There's a thunderstorm coming. Bad news. That means you're going to see an X% decrease in foot traffic in store for next Thursday's shift. You have 4 employees scheduled. All of the data bears out that these two employees sell these two products to this archetype of customer. So we make a recommendation to modify by removing 2 employees off the schedule and then pushing a special offer on the website for the kind of products that we anticipate customers would be buying as they're going to be doing, in-store pickup or curbside pickup. He says, yes, it was done. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Trifecta Green Hornet gummies, and they sold out online. And I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. I mean, we didn't do anything revolutionary, right? And I think that this comes back to the original point on, curation and personalization. I really am starting to despise this term AI, right? We talk about artificial intelligence, such a high level of elasticity to it. And we always practice the verbiage augmented intelligence. The job of our platform is to augment the intelligence of the data for the individuals who need to move the business forward. I'm not in the business of thinking that an AI bud tender is something comfortable for the market. The idea that we would replace human beings from the equation, albeit even online, is a farce. For people that use that vernacular, that really kind of double down on that, they're missing the entirety of the picture, which is pairing the who, what, where, when, and why in front of the transaction to the many, many beautifully, positioned data points from an operator's perspective on the back end, and then marrying it with the outside world data. You get a full and accurate picture on how to operate cleaner, how to operate smoother. And the system aside, operators just want to operate, right? So I think our big win has come in the form of us being able to work with remarkable operators, vertically integrated retail here in the US, in Japan, in Germany, and, the UK and everywhere else. And, Israel, we were talking about this before. What we're finding is that the problems that exist for retailers here is not unique. They have a lot of data. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know when it's archaic. They don't know who pulls that lever. And on the other end of that, they're relying so heavily on post-transaction data. Call me crazy, but traditional retail dictates who's in front of the transaction should be the determining factor for how you operate, what you put on the shelves, when you put it on the shelves, what you do with it when it's on the shelves, and who behind the counter is handing the product to the consumer. And so I think what we've always focused on is that who, what, where, when, and why for how much in front of the transaction, and then allowing for all the other data to take shape and using the systems that these retailers are already, interacting with daily, not replacing them, because a replacement outright is just like fighting for inches in the POS game. And we don't care what brand hammer they use. Our job is to tell them how far back to swing and then where to put it positionally forward. We do it clean, we do it clear, and we do it with limited bias, just focusing on profitability and ultimately driving better products to the right people at the right time in front of the transaction. And it's been fun. It's been really, really fun. With that being said, now I'm going to Google the heck out of security and drones and any and everything, Eggers, that you had mentioned. Because when we get together, when I come back home to the Bay Area, man, and we grab a drink and we do the devil's lettuce, around the table, I need to know what the heck I'm talking about, man. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like I'm at a Lord of the Rings convention talking about Harry Potter. So, that's what we do.
Looking forward to it, man. But Christian, I love what you're saying, because you talked about a few things that Chris Boudreau said, which was, taking these various pieces, regardless, security, sales, marketing, customer service, you got all these different pieces that go into any cannabis business, let alone any business. Yeah. And I really like what you said, that, you've taken these different pieces and put them in one place, for a seamless, unbiased, which is huge, and unbiased data point.
Tough. It's tough, right? It's tough because bias is it's just a part of who we are, right? I mean, I'm biased. I know I was giving you all a hard time. I have to consistently do this because there's not very much Canatech coming out of Kansas City, but I'm biased into thinking that the Chiefs are a dynasty that can't be beaten, right? There is a bias that factors into everything that we do. I think that what is remarkable for us is we have, two other people that we, on the team, our CEO, Ben York, who, comes from the family office on the psychedelic side, but also was at ArcView for a long time. And then our incoming CRO, Sarah Kabakov, who was formerly at Dutchie, very early on and leading all their go-to-market. And the both of them, when the three of us get into a room, we're always, having healthy debates around, how and what we can do as stewards of this data. And one of the things that it just unintentionally, we always come back to is this data doesn't belong to us. Right. There is, and I'm sorry, but the idea of revolution in cannabis is gone. It's now about modernizing, right? Expert systems and utilizing, this myriad of different data sources that some points are very contradictory, but making sense of them is something that Target does. It's something that, Bank of America does. I always try to tell our clients bias is going to factor into everything that you do, always. But data, if read and paired and managed correctly in a centralized and simplified way, can move the needle. You just have to kind of take a step back and look at the entirety of what happens, right? And I struggle with it every day. It's like, we have, obviously with our floor match product, we're taking in a tremendous amount of customer first person data, enriching it, making product recommendations. I always get the question, what's your favorite strain? What's your favorite brand? And I'm like, man, I don't tell people that. I don't even think I've told my wife that. I try to remove as much bias, even from the way that I'm like in character on the set, right? Trying to be, the change that we want to see. But I will tell you one thing, retailers have caught on to it, and good for them. And not just retailers. Everyone understands the future currency in our industry really lies in data. That is the future. Plugging Crispy, I'm going to call you Crispy number one because you're the OG on this. Everyone thinks we're going to spin up a chat GPT. We're going to have, we're going to figure out by going to, I've heard Upwork, we're going to go Python engineer, and we're just going to build our own system. And I think that one of the things that they forget is compute and storage are pretty friggin' expensive, right? And plus, when you start dealing with open source models and at the end of the day, we're a machine learning company. We focus on machine learning, and we just love working with retailers. I love it. I'm really proud of myself for not using a lot of bad words on this one, namely because my 6-year-old's been picking up way too many of them. But it's a shit show. But that's amazing, because that means that there's an opportunity for us to sift through the chaos and try to find clarity. And retailers and everyone, they're dying for it. I always. Yeah. And then I'll stop talking. But I always get the question from people outside of the industry. It's like, man, you guys are solving some really big problems. And I'm like, well, we're not smart enough to focus on banking. So I think we'll stick with data, because there's a lot there.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Personally, my mind was going everywhere just because I'm a normal shopper at retailers around my area. And so I can appreciate when the shops are carrying the right products and the right brands that I personally like when I'm going there every 2 weeks. Like, I would hope that they've caught on to the idea that I have this, mid 30-year-old coming in. That's a mom every, if they're watching it every 2 weeks, and she's picking up close to the 2 ounces. And what kind of flower I'm interested in. Because a lot of times, for me, I'm always harping on, don't forget about the sun growing out there, especially for us in SoCal. And so if we got more exposure and we use this data to really show how much elevated that those farmers are putting into those products, maybe that would help the game in their view and the way they can use things. But I think, if people, it would be like us saying to not start tapping into the internet when that time was here, for us to not use technology and where AI is today. And I'm sure all of you guys who are into metrics and AI can tap on that.
And I think you're right, Casey. I think that's where the future is going to go. I think we're going to see, I think Christian Blake or CB. I don't want to call you CB too. You deserve better than that. But I'll call him Mr. Blake. Mr. Blake, is that okay?
Yeah, I love it. I've been called a lot worse. I appreciate my peers.
Me as well. Mr. Blake has some really exciting technology that's gathering those data insights. We are as well. And I think we're kind of the front line of this. But I think what the evolution is going to be is, okay, now that we've gathered the data, now that AI is taking that data and enriching it and making it in a way that we can use it in smarter ways, the next level is not just going to be for that front end client that we have of like the retailer maybe that's saying, okay, hey, I can use this data, but then taking that further and saying, okay, hey, we've got this rich data. Let's get that to brands. Let's get that to cultivators and say, hey, look, here's insights on what people really want. This is what's trending. These are things that are happening. And I think we'll see a smarter marketplace, not just in cannabis, but in the broader world, where demands will get met quicker. Trends will be responded to more quickly, where there'll be more products available in kind of the ways. The downside to that is that you start seeing things trending faster and oversaturation happening quicker. But I think to your point, and that's really well said, Casey, I think that's where the world's going, is saying, oh, well, this mom and these other people like, this flower, they like buying in bigger bulk orders. We need to make sure that we have products and packaging, and forgive me for saying bigger bulk, but 2 ounces is, not as normal for, there's not as many moms out there buying 2 ounces at a time.
Challenge accepted. I want to challenge that one. If this
I was like, I don't know, Chris.
we're playing Canna Scrabble.
Yeah. Don't count out the Canna moms here in Inland Empire.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, no, I think, and to what Chris Edgers on the security side of things is, I love that you really look at the side of who you're working and who you're serving first, the owner, and making sure that you make it seamless for them and simplified for them, and also saving them money. But they have so many other things that they have to navigate and manage in that whole cannabis industry of retailer, that having the one-stop shop on all platforms, like you guys have all said, is just, I think, a win for them. So I love that you touched on that as well. We do have a question for you that I think was more related to you because of the security. This is coming from Chris Esley. Sorry if I said that.
Precisely.
Yeah. What are the issues with privacy when over private homes?
Love that. So that's a great question. And we've talked to and worked with privacy advocates in the Bay Area. So my belief is this, that technology should not be in the hands of law enforcement. There's a term you're going to hear about, if you haven't heard already, called DFR, drones for first responders. And it's a trend that's happening in the drone space where, law enforcement officers are using drones and piloting drones. And I think it's horrible because there's very little expectation of privacy. There's very, very little clarity and transparency, where a private company can be held to a different standard. So beyond the FAA regulations and waivers that preclude or don't allow to fly over certain spaces, we do not capture biometric data. We do not share biometric data with law enforcement. We only share, if we share at all, we only share what is prevalent to that incident and in an area where there is no expectation of privacy. And so I shared a video of some folks having coffee, right? Like, that's no different than me taking a cell phone photo and they're in the background. But over someone's private home, that's different. Now, here's why this technology is better in the hands of a company like mine than in law enforcement. Law enforcement today is flying helicopters over your house, looking in your backyards. And we have clients, I have a law enforcement background. We also, within my firm, hold private investigator licenses because criminal defense work is part of what we do and what I really, really enjoy. It's just a smaller piece of our business and one we don't talk about a ton. But we have clients that have had search warrants written on their properties when they're in the licensing phase because there was how would I say this? There was a misunderstanding about the amount of plants while somebody's in this hybrid phase, right? And so law enforcement's flying helicopters, flying drones over your backyards, and then they're cutting search warrants on it. So those are the same people that are now flying drones within their own departments. And I think it's a bad idea. So privacy is key. Transparency is key. And the ability to get fired is key. Okay. And read the fine print in I'm not just talking about security, in any vendor engagement, read the fine print. And in security, what's very common, unfortunately, is this handcuffy language that if you fire me, I don't really give you back the keys to the castle. You don't really get all of your stuff back. You don't really own your equipment, or you don't even own your access control logs, et cetera, et cetera. So transparency is key, and not violating privacy laws and in areas where there is an expectation of privacy, which would include, somebody's inside somebody's house or over somebody's backyard.
I have a follow-up question to that. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I just want to know, being former law enforcement, right? How well received is it by the law enforcement community when they see the work you all are doing? I mean, I know it's a from what I've heard, not being coming from that industry, it's a small, big industry, right?
It is, and it's very sheepish. They follow one another, right? And that's really bad. So I give this data point. I attended on my own extracurricular training about 70 different sessions in my 13-year career. Only 2 of them were also available to civilians. What does that tell you? In what industry can you only learn from each other in this small incestual world and really thrive? And law enforcement does a really poor job about education because they learn and teach from their own. And it's when I left the industry where I really started to broaden my horizons and understand that, right? And so I think it's really important when we're talking about technology specifically that it is not in the hands of law enforcement alone. I wrote a white paper about this. It's on my LinkedIn. Why and how I think DFR programs are a huge waste of money and resources. And again, servicing the end user. And in this case, it's the average citizen, right? In our world, it's the operator, it's the business holder, it's the license holder. And it's unfortunate, but specifically in cannabis, there's a lot of people that are really good at talking and selling that, don't deliver when the thing breaks. And let's just be honest, none of our stuff is 100%. None of anyone's stuff is 100%. And anyone that says it is probably not telling you the truth. What we do say is, listen, when something doesn't work, we're going to get in the trenches with you and we're going to figure it out shoulder to shoulder.
And for perspective for the audience, Chris is always so humble. Chris Eggers, is always so humble about stuff. But Chris has actually had the contract with the city of LA for cannabis security, and then he's done consulting for Oakland and the city of San Francisco. So really, some of the biggest metro markets on the planet, Chris Eggers and his team have been doing consulting and kind of leading for. So he really is on cannabis and security and what kind of standards the city should set. So he really is a leading authority in cannabis security.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. And for anyone in LA, we are coaching Goodwill. It's no cost to you. Hit up the DCR and you can work with my firm for free. And if you want to reference this webinar, we'll work with you for free. We'll give some hours to you. We just want to see people succeed, and it's very much needed in this industry. And it's just an absolute pleasure and a breath of fresh air to be integrating and orbiting around folks like yourselves that also put clients first. It's very, very well received and very refreshing. And I'm just honored to be on this panel with you guys.
Aw. Now I feel like we're kicking ass on the customer service side. Look at us.
Tom Brady's the best quarterback to ever live, but
oh my God. That's how you know there was a pre-pop to the show. Come on.
We still have a couple participants here. We don't have any further questions. We do have a very long question. You guys can't see the questions yourselves, can you? The panelist? Q&A at the bottom by any chance? Otherwise, I will read this.
Yeah, do you want to read it, Casey? Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure. I'm a marketing producer at a nonprofit focused on healing women and non-binary trauma survivors, veterans, medical patients, those in financial need to receive access to medicine. Since our dedication to gathering data this last year, we have seen 65% growth, and we're dedicated to use the healing use of storytelling as part of these survivors' journeys. This has been insightful as to not fear the machine, how to lean into growing technologies. And more than that, using it for marketing and content tool to broader the glance in the cannabis industry as a whole. And that may be it. Let me expand it. But it sounds like we're getting feedback on that. Just the topic overall on how to best use AI and to just not steer away from it. Because there is a lot of riffraff out there. And I think it depends on what you're focused on as far as your personal brand or what you're serving, on how to use it to the best of your advantage. Because I think being able to articulate what we want it to produce as a marketing person or content creator, that's going to be something we're going to need to learn. So it learns what we're trying to envision and create as well. I mean, I loved all the food pictures, but I think it's learning that part of it too, is how to communicate ourselves so that the tool is able to navigate and process what we're trying to have it do for us initially.
Yeah. And I think to your point, Casey, and to Parker's point, that just on kind of a closing point for me, at least, I think what we're seeing now are some tools that are, whether it's Christian, whether it's Chris Eggers, whether it's us, we're seeing tools that are really, I'm excited to share that we're on the forefront of AI technology. We're doing things that even some of the biggest companies aren't doing yet. But this is just the beginning. To Chris Eggers' point a minute ago, we've only really seen LLMs, which is kind of an AI engine. We're really only seeing these being out for about a little over a year. And so this is the forefront of this technology, and where it's going to go in terms of marketing is, I don't know if it's 2 years or 3 years, but I can tell you we're already working on it. And I know others are as well, is instead of having to figure out what you should market, it'll take a look at your data, it'll take a look at your customers, how they're responding, and it will, at some levels, suggest marketing for you.
Love that.
Automatically doing all the marketing for you, saying at a very personal level, individually to individual people. So there's some really exciting things coming. It's, to Parker's point, it's not something to fear, at least not what we're doing. The robots in your home, that could be a different story. But there's going to be tools that enhance our lives in so many different ways and enhance our businesses, our productivity, our cost savings, and our ability to increase sales in great ways.
Yeah, I would just say too, to that point, like I think, Chris Eggers kind of hit the nail on the head early on too. I try to reinforce this when we're, on sales calls or when we're talking to clients or when we're on site. Does artificial intelligence have the potential to automate certain tasks that people perform? Absolutely. Are there a myriad of applications for it to create a faster, less human hand reliant, component to it? For sure. I really love this industry for nothing else aside from it's totally okay to talk about things that are maybe taboo everywhere else, and it's a highly personal industry. And so for those that feel, the sort of the overwhelming wave of, automation or over automation or biased, as machines can and are still learning not to do. I think it's important to remember that there's still people behind, pulling levers, moving the needle, to Edgar's point. That I can tell you from an entrepreneur's perspective, what that number you threw out was really effing impressive because it's really hard. But people move the needle more than, tools. Tools are meant to augment the way in which we operate. But a lot of it is also trial and error, and learning and making mistakes. And my gosh, if I had a penny for every time that Genetica made a mistake over the last 3 years, I would have no investors on my cap table. It would be amazing. I own 100% of the company. But I think it's more about glass half full, but also recognizing that nothing is perfect. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of collaboration. And that's why it's awesome to work with, and talk to, everyone on the panel. It's like we're all trying in some way, shape, or form to kind of put our hand on the arc of change within the industry. And we're doing it from different lenses or a different vantage point. But, at the core, the changing landscape of AI and everything that it encapsulates is our common theme. And that's pretty badass.
Yep. And just adding value to people, period. Right. Whether we add value to our clients, but, culturally, we're adding value to our employees who, by the way, live in the communities of which they work in. Right. So when we talk about it, what I also find funny about like naysayers, right. Yeah. Or in my case, it's privacy people. The people who are the loudest have never been to East Oakland, and they're not working in East Oakland. They're not employed in East Oakland. They don't live in East Oakland. But you can go talk to a bunch of my employees who live in East Oakland that are flying drones in the neighborhoods of which they work and the neighborhoods of which their kids go to school, and they're super stoked. So I think it is important. I appreciate that people have an opinion, and I appreciate the pushback because that's how we get better. And we reserve to get smarter, and it's okay to fail fast. Right. But there's in all of our own little worlds, there's people that come out of the woodwork that with things to say, and some of them are valid and straight up, some of them are not. And there's people that will never come to the communities of which we serve that want to, talk about some of the bad things or their perspective. But, you're welcome up on 98th Avenue anytime.
You heard it. Are you guys okay on time? We're a little bit past, or we just got to the hour, but we have 2 more questions. Cool. I'm hearing about AI being used in cannabis financial auditing. Has anyone had any experiences with this or heard of it?
Yeah, I don't know about others, but one of the things that we've been testing out with some clients, is management and access on the accounting side. It's been something that we've tried to really steer clear of in large part. But yeah, there are solutions and tools that are hey, later, Chris. That are being used primarily by larger, operators, that are more on the back office side speaking, of course, from the retail experience. I would say it's pretty scary, and with all the regulations and state by state, county by county, the whole, I don't know if everyone knows, it's still federally illegal. It hasn't been rescheduled yet, but I haven't checked the news in 20 minutes. So, it's tough. I would say there's an opportunity, but the idea of spinning up like a GPT to go through and, your accounting software and try to, make sense of things and audit, through and through. It's scary.
It's coming though. It's coming
for sure. And train on it.
Yeah. There's it, to answer, I've seen some stuff. It's early, but it's coming. Good or bad, no judgment. Just saying what it is. I think we're going to see some changes in accounting and legal and some other industries where AI can really help supplement some of the work. I know we have one more question. I know we're a couple minutes over. So, Casey, if you want to.
Yeah. Last one, guys. Data scientists here in Oklahoma. Where do you find all the data sources for sales, other data sources complementing others? I think that
one I think is pretty easy, probably for both of us. And that's just point of sale integrations.
Yeah. Central source of truth. Everything's always going to go where they swipe, type, or and cash. Yeah.
All right, fellas, that's all I have as far as questions for today's topic. That was a great topic to dive into. I think a lot of people took some notes, or I know I did. Hopefully you guys did as well, but it is going to be on YouTube. So we will make sure that all the information here for all of our panelists are in the description. But any last words before we head out of here, guys?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Casey.
Have a great 420, guys. Enjoy the week.